Welcome back to codingcat.dev, where we give you cats the freshest dose of dev snacks. Here is Alex Patterson and Brittany Postma. This episode brought to you by Storyblok. Build anything and publish everywhere. Publish everywhere. I like that one. Welcome back, perfect peeps, to codingcat.dev podcast. See, I said it right that time, Brittany.
You did, yeah. And we're actually kind of introducing ourselves this time. We always forget and we just kind of jump right into the guest and we never do like an introduction.
It's true. Maybe let's do that. I'm Alex Patterson, one of your hosts of codingcat.dev podcast, and
I am Brittany Postma. Apparently the designer of Coding Cat. I guess I did do the designs.
Yeah, that's true.
I just noticed in the intro that you have the developer and the designer. I don't know why I've never caught on to that.
Oh, that's funny. We have a special guest with us today. Ankita, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, for sure. Before though, I love the design of everything. So it's all, I love the colors. I think I'm using the same pink on my website.
Nice.
Anyways, I am Ankita Kulkarni. I am currently an educator. I have been working in tech for more than 10 years or so, starting as a developer, switched to being a founder started my own company, paid off my tuition because of that, which is pretty awesome. And then switched to being a leader, senior engineering leader. So yeah, that's me. And I'm really passionate about teaching developers and helping grow your brand in general. So yeah, that's me.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, that's kind of a wild swing to go from just a developer to like founding your own company. What drove that? And then how did you get into that like developer education space from that? What was that journey like?
Yeah, for sure. So I always wanted to start something of my own, and I really had this passion of like helping local businesses, just like even way before COVID hit, right? I just wanted to do that. So with my company, initially, I just like helped local businesses build apps because I thought that, the enterprise companies, the medium-sized companies, they all have people they can go to. Local businesses don't. So I started off just like helping small businesses in the area. Then more businesses started reaching out. I learned a lot being a founder and wearing so many different hats. But then after I paid off my tuition, which is pretty awesome, but I also faced a little bit of burnout, so I decided to take up a job as a developer and got into leadership pretty early on in my career because of that founder experience too. um, so I worked as a developer, solution architect, technical lead, and like engineering manager and senior engineering manager and so on. But then switched to being an educator. As throughout my career, I would say that I really loved teaching and I always had a passion for it. So in like 2019, I gave so many different conference talks on different topics because I just loved teaching and like sharing ideas and, breaking down complex topics into easier ones and things like that. So many people also asked me, are you a developer evangelist? And I'm like, no, I was a solution architect at the time. So many people also like thought that too. So again, like just because of my passion, I decided to create a course on Next.js just to try it out and see if this is something that does bring me joy to turn it into a full-time thing or not. And that was something I would look forward to all the time. So I just love developer education throughout my career, and a space that I always wanted to tap into. And the course just like, solidified that. And I was like, yes, I love doing this. I love sharing. I love teaching. And I love that light bulb moment that gets created, when students are like, yes, this was so complex before. Thanks for making it so much easier for us. So yeah, I love all of that. So
that makes sense too, I think, from that engineering management perspective for them to enjoy having or helping other developers in education in that space. I've asked somebody before at a conference, like, are you a DevRel? And it's like, no, I just love giving these talks. Like, you don't have to be a DevRel to give talks and share education, but I love that story.
yeah, for sure. And I guess like even as I was growing in my career in general too, I personally felt like a lot of developers like did not necessarily know about a lot of topics, like how do you grow your brand, how do you put yourself out there, how do you ask for more, and things like that. That really puzzled me, and I was like, oh, I did not know this was a topic that many didn't know about. But as I became a lead, I started sharing the same things over and over again, and as leading to like me getting into more developer education stuff too, because I was like, this is such a untapped market. Like many people don't know about how to ask for more, how to stand out, how to grow in their careers, and that's because we don't talk about it. So even like when as I transition into being a manager and a lead and whatnot too, I just shared that knowledge and like created presentations on it, and like talked a lot in the company and started creating programs in the company too, to like educate people on how do you become a leader, how do you do certain things, right? So again, it just like all was really organic, that now that I look back, I'm like, that makes sense.
I'm imagine it's pretty similar to that transition because you're wearing a lot of hats still, but they're different hats. And it's a lot of things like being a freelancer, being a content creator, being a manager. You've got to do a lot of different things. And it's not always a straightforward path. And figuring out how you manage that is hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And I think that again, like as being a founder of a company and then switching all the way to being a manager, I was always used to wearing a lot of hats. And I'm also not someone who would just take on one thing and stick to it. I will always try things in the background and in parallel, right? So um I guess like being a creator now as well, or an educator creator, right? I'm wearing so many different hats again, which is like I'm doing marketing, I'm doing SEO, I'm doing copywriting, and you have to be good at so many different things, which is such a cool thing to learn, and like get better at. But also like, yeah, being creative about it too is really important.
I actually like that. And that gets into kind of our podcast topic and growing your brand. Maybe let's break that down. What are some of those things that you just listed, and how can we expand more on what those things are that you're having to do, like SEO and copywriting and those kinds of things?
Yeah, for sure. So I guess like when you I guess like I'm not sure about all developers, I cannot speak for them, but a lot of us don't like marketing, right? Like we
Yeah.
don't like to promote our stuff, we don't like to talk about it. We love to create stuff, we get excited about it, we'll share with our friends and whatnot, right? Or the company we work at. But I think some of the ways that I think you can, promote your content and like grow and whatnot is like SEO. Like because the users already have an intent, right? They Google something that I want to grow. Let's say I want to grow as a developer or grow my brand. And if there's a blog post or a few blog posts or videos on that topic already, then you are already talking to that user, right? And I love SEO for that reason. So I'll do like keyword research and whatnot to just to make sure that I am capturing the intent and not just writing in general, because I know that it's helping someone, right? There is a need for it because people are searching a lot more for that topic. So I guess like even like for growing your brand, this is something that I found that many people were searching for it too.
Let's take a pause and just go out and thank our sponsors, and then we'll be right back.
How in the world could I forget about this?
There's no need to freak out. We have Storyblok.
Robert, you're right.
But we still need a plan.
Okay, how much time do we have left until the launch?
24 hours.
Okay, let's go.
We are ready to publish.
So let's get this baby online.
Thank you once again, Storyblok, for sponsoring us. We really appreciate it. And Kita, when we kind of jumped out there to sponsorship, we were talking about SEO, and one of the hardest things I have is I have too many ideas. I think often, how do you decide which, like based on SEO or whatever, which subject that you're going to go after and like what needs taught more? Because I often feel like there's thousands of articles on this already. Why do I need to do this? And like, I get stuck in that mode of kind of second guessing myself. So how do you get around that?
Yeah, and I've been thinking a lot about it recently as well, because there's so much out there and there's so much you can do, right? But then how do you, I think it's important that you figure out a focus for yourself, like where I want to have the most impact and what I want to focus on, and where you want to grow as, as a dev or as a person in general, right? So for example, if it is for me right now, my focus is leadership, but I also have a course on Next.js and it's like more technical content, right? But right now I've decided that that's my focus. So, what are some things that I am interested in that specific topic? Are things that I would start tapping into, right? So, for example, for me, my passion is to help developers level up and grow into engineering managers or engineering leaders or something like that. So, I'm going to think about and I'm going to search again using SEO or even talking to people, right? What are some of the struggles that they're having? What are the pain points? Like if you talk to folks, people are going to share like where they are stuck, and you can start writing on those specific topics because it's going to help you a lot more. Plus, again, using SEO, I think SEO is great to like, okay, I already have this idea. Let me see how many folks would be interested in it and kind of cater and make sure that those questions also get answered into it. But I think it's all about your passion and what you are interested in writing, because that's what readers are going to look into. Otherwise, even a chat GPT can give you the same answers, right? When
I
you like
think
on
it's
it.
really important too that everyone has an individual voice, and you may speak differently to a person on the exact same topic than someone else does. So don't think that your content is worthless because someone else did it. You speak in a different tone of voice, you explain things differently than somebody else, and that may speak to someone differently.
Yeah, exactly. And like recently, there was a review on my on the Next.js course. It was just like I took many Next.js courses, but your course finally made it click. And I don't think it was anything to do with my course in general. It's because they went and read so many different voices, and maybe my voice, made it click for them, right? So maybe for someone else, some other educator's voice can click for them. So I think there's a huge market, uh, especially like as so many devs and are interested in learning and growing and even entering the tech industry, right, through boot camps, through degrees or whatever it might be. I think it's important to have your voice, because you are going to connect with someone out there who's looking to learn, right? And that's what matters. And initially you might not get that traction, and that's okay, right? I think you should keep going. The more you do things, the better you get, right? And the more consistent you are, the better you're going to get results. And finally it's going to click. Yeah, I already have written so many of those things already.
Yeah. And so you talked about a little about when you do SEO, you do some keyword research. And can you like dive in a little bit to how you do that and how you optimize for the content?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. So I think I mentioned that if there's a pain point that I wanted to target, like if there's a transformation that I'm looking for. So even like let's say developers to engineering leaders as an example, right? I kn- After talking to a few folks, I know that there is a pain point necessarily around, you might feel the feeling of imposter syndrome, or you might feel left out, or whatever that might be, the feelings of being a leader, right? So I am going to start looking into that and go to SEO and start, researching on what are some things what is the intent, right? So maybe becoming an engineering manager is the intent, or engineering manager is an intent, or feeling imposter syndrome as an engineering leader is an intent, right? So based on the intent of the Google searches, it is that I figured out what are the different keywords, some things that maybe make sure I add that is helpful for my specific post. So if there are things that I missed other than feelings, what are some strategies that they can apply as well? I add that and make sure that I have a really good outline. Once I do have an outline, then we can start filling out in different things in those maybe bullet points, right? It gets easier as a writer, like as for you as well, because it's going to help you a lot. The other thing I would say is that I would recommend writing atomic essays, because you're not going to come up with the whole, like the outline and every topic out of the box. It's important that you like write a little bit every single day, and a blog post will get created, and then you're like, oh, actually I'm really proud of this blog post. Maybe it's time to publish it, right? And then sharing it with other folks so that they read it and whatnot too.
That's one thing I hate about writing blog posts is they take so long to create, because you think like you'll sit down and write for 30 minutes and it'll be done, but there's just a process you have to go through.
Yeah, exactly. I think I wait for that inspiration, right? Or that early morning or late night sort of moments that I have to myself on a specific topic. So if you block time or whatever time, it doesn't matter, morning or evening or night or whatever time where you find the most focus, find that and start dumping ideas in a post, right? It is so important. No idea is a bad idea. Just have like a no judgment hour for yourself. That's what I call it, and I block it in my calendar to no judgment hour, and like write down everything, and then I come back to it the next day and I'm like, let's see, now it's time to judge a little bit and take out things that are probably not that as interesting as other posts or whatever, and then go start editing it more and more, right? But I never go from like, oh, I have this ideal post and I know exactly what to write, and publish it the next day. I keep thinking about it. I'm like, oh yeah, there's a really cool idea. Just write it down and like move on. Yeah.
That's a great point.
Reminds me, we need to get back to our ideas section within our Notion planning. We're doing a terrible job.
I feel like the ideas just grow and grow and grow, and you don't have time to do anything with the ideas.
Yeah, that's true.
I think weekly, I do I run like a weekly retrospective for myself. I'm very organized. I need to be. If I'm not organized, I don't know what I'm doing Monday morning. So I run like a weekly retro for myself, like things that went well, things that didn't go so well, and what's going to be my focus based on past week for the next week. And I just like create a statement for it, right? Like, okay, and it goes back to my leadership experience too, because that's exactly how I plan my week as well. And then based on that, I also go through the ideas that I have too, that I'm like, okay, what ideas I think make sense, will have the most impact for me and also my audience that I'm targeting, right? And you do a little bit of SEO research too, just to see where I'm seeing momentum, or even my posts, or people messaging me, right? These different signals where I think might be traction, and I accordingly then prioritize. But then throughout the week, I'm relaxed because I don't have to run around thinking about, oh my God, what do I write today? It's more so like I already have it planned. And sometimes it changes, right? Like middle of the week, I'm like, I don't like what I'm doing. I need to change it. So I change it. That's okay. But I think it's important to have a little bit of a plan, and a mission statement, at least I like to say it, so that okay, this is what I want to get done.
Yeah, I like the process-driven attitude that you have towards that, and blocking time on your calendar is a huge one that I tell everyone. Like, if I did not have my calendar, I could not live my life. And I literally put, like, taking out my garbage is on my calendar. I have to put everything on there.
Yeah, I also have like a weekly non-negotiables. Like, I need to get it done. I've also added like creating a YouTube video as part of it, because I'm a fairly newer YouTuber, right? So I'm like, unless I add it in there, I'm not gonna do it. It's not gonna be top of mind for me.
Yeah, let's break that down. So what formats of content creation have you explored and like looked into, and what are you branching out into that's new for you?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think I've explored a lot and I've been trying. I think experimentation is the best way to understand what works for you. Right now, I have what's working for me, and what I really love is my newsletters. So I write two newsletters. One is on a front end development, where I explain, like, take a code snippet and explain visually how a piece of code, and like teach you something new, because not everyone has the time to learn something new every single week. And the second is on a leadership topic. So breaking down a complex leadership topic for newer engineering leaders and whatnot, right? And I think those two newsletters are really working well for me, because I have a topic, I ask the newsletter community to vote on a topic, and they tell me what to write about, so that it makes it easier for me as well.
That's awesome. I
Yeah.
need
So
to
like,
get on those.
yeah, and I think it's like great, right? Because I'm like, oh, I've been thinking of writing these 4 topics. Which one do you think you would be interested in? And they vote, and I'm like, this is the best thing ever. But going back to your question, I think there are different avenues, right? And I think what makes sense and what works for me, and I would say what would work for a lot of people, is what brings you the most joy when you create content, right? Is it writing that it brings you joy? Is it going on video or
You're
podcast?
Marie Kondoing your content creation.
I'm
Does it
very
bring joy?
condo everything.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's like if it doesn't bring you joy, like you're not going to finish that blog post, you're not going to write that newsletter, and you will start being less consistent. And I'm speaking from experience here. So I thought that again, like going back to like my YouTube channel and the video, I felt like that was the easiest way for me to create more content and be consistent with it. So that has become like my main source of content. My newsletter is a second, and like have a big post that works, and then I kind of try to break it down into smaller things and blog posts and whatnot to out of it. But that's what seems to work in terms of like format. But I would recommend that try what works for you, figure out what's one thing that you can stay consistent with, and make that be like the big piece, right?
Mhm.
Make that be the hub content, and then you can have different like pieces of content related to that, which can actually be tiny pieces that you share on social media, and whatnot, just to see what works.
What's your process like with YouTube videos? Because if it's live and it's something I can just get out without editing, I love it. It's low barrier to entry. But if I have to edit and go through the things, like I can't.
Yeah, I think I use the same process. Like in my weekly retro, I figure out what I want to create, what I'm passionate to talk about this week. And like last week, I recorded I think 3 videos in a day, on 3 YouTube videos in a day, because I was so passionate to talk about engineering leadership. And I was like, I need to have a series on my channel just to talk about what it's like to transition from developer to engineering managers. And I recorded 3 different videos, and the reason why I did that, because I written down those 3 topics, and I knew that that's what my newsletter community wanted and were interested in and kept asking for it, right? So I was like, these are really good topics. But what I try to do for my YouTube videos, and again, I'm only 1 month, like my channel is only a month old, so it's not that big. But what's seeming to really work for me is, one, I really love creating content. But second, plan out your content, and then plan out like overall like talking points. And it's no different than giving a conference talk, right? You plan out like different topics, you figure out what's the best way for my viewers to learn this topic, and then record it, right? And again, my brother is my editor, so I think that helps a ton.
You get a pass, yeah.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, can we get his number so that we can like give him some
Yeah.
work?
Yeah, that's what I told him too. I was like, my YouTube channel takes off, I can hire you. You are my full-time editor. You don't have to work for anyone else. Just kidding. But like, I think that really helps a lot with editing, right? Because he knows me really well, so he knows what's my style, what I'm looking for, and we can give feedback to each other, which is great. And today he told me, he's like, I think your fourth video is way better than your first one. So I'm like, okay, that's progress.
I need that encouragement. I need to find an editor.
And you spoke a little bit earlier about having courses too. So that's more of like a long form thing that takes a little bit longer to organize. But what does that kind of creation look like for you?
Hmm.
Yeah, let's show a couple of those too while we're chatting
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah, for sure. So I think in terms of like my courses in general, I think it's again a topic that I need to be passionate about, I need to be really interested in, right? And something that will connect with my viewers, and there is a demand for it, right? And I guess like when I create the newsletter content or YouTube content, it's actually being drawn from the course content that I have already. So again, think about, okay, I need to give the transformation to this specific person. I want them to get from A to B. How did I do it? Where did I struggle? What did I experience? And I also asked like my community, like, what did you experience? Like, did you struggle with it? And based on the topics they vote on, I kind of like create a craft, like a rough outline for how I planned the course in general, right? So for example, the Next.js course, I had a rough outline. Okay, I'm gonna go and create a project from scratch. Let me write down all the places I struggle with, but I also had another person also go through, another developer go through the same process and tell me where they struggle with, because again, like, I think I'm a little bit more experienced as a developer, so I might not go through the same thing as maybe a complete beginner might. So having both of those perspectives really help, but having a rough outline and then making sure I have all the content ready for it. And once I do have that, then I can like start recording it. But until I have the content finalized and I want to make sure that I'm covering all the topics. I'm teaching in a way that's resonating, getting feedback from a few folks, and after that is when I switch to recording the course and whatnot. Yeah.
That's really cool. Just looking at these courses, so I assume since you do everything that you're passionate about, Next.js is kind of one of those. I think. Oh, the modal didn't pop up. Hang on, let me see if I must have closed it once. It went away.
If you close the modal, here's the thing with the logic I have there is, if you close the modal, I am not going to nag you again because you have expressed intent that you don't want it anymore.
Let's
Oh,
try
that's
this. Let's
nice.
clear this and see if it
Yep,
comes
yep.
up. Maybe.
And you need to spend maybe 3 or more seconds on it.
Okay.
But yeah,
There it is.
There it
there
is.
it is.
So it looks like you want to dive into React Server components. Tell me more about like the process for this, because I feel like React Server components are like, it's one of those edge type of things. Like not everybody's using these yet. What is your mindset when you go through like such a new topic like that?
Yeah, for sure. So I am testing out this specific. I've created a free email course on this specific topic, React Server Components.
Nice.
And I am testing out this with my newsletter community who have expressed interest in helping me test this specific course, right? But it's forever going to be free. I'm never going to make it premium or anything like that. The process is like, I wrote a blog post on this topic, React Server Components, because I thought that many folks, even when I was going through Next.js 13, it was very difficult to understand, even from the demos, and the marketing, like exactly how does it work, right? And I want to update my course on Next.js and make sure my students understand it. So
We are very good at marketing.
yeah. So I really wanted to make sure that I really go through it myself, write down the things that I'm struggling with, and really break it down. So I wrote a blog post on React Server Components, and that blog post started ranking on Google pretty much like a couple of weeks later, which was huge for me. And I started seeing so much traffic from it that I was like, there's clearly a need for it, right? And I would say it's like one of the most popular blog posts on my blog, which is crazy. So I was like, I really need to create more on this specific topic, because that means developers need it. They don't fully understand it, and I get it because I didn't either until I kept building apps with it, right?
And it's new, so there's not a lot of content around it yet.
Exactly. Yeah. So I wanted to tap into that market. So I created a free email course on React Server Components. And if you're checking out a front end specific blog on my site, you will get the modal for learning React Server Components. Because I think that's because people are then coming from Google to my front end content. That means they're more interested in front end compared to leadership. So the way I wrote that specific course, again, like taking topics from my blog post and really diving deep and building a blog as part of the course. And I asked my newsletter community, my front end newsletter community, are you interested in it? Would you be willing to test it? And I created like a separate like Discord for it as well. there were like close to 40 people who said they're interested in helping me test it, which is pretty awesome because we did catch a couple of bugs before rolling it out further that I need to fix. But I think like that process of like testing it and getting feedback really helped a lot. So now when I do put out this course, they are going to love it because they helped test it, they were invested in it, they learned it, right? And now there are maybe 40 more people who know React Server components before the course, right? Which is pretty awesome. And I will promote it eventually once I fix the bug. But yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah, it's fun to find those like niche targets within a subject like that you did. So that's really cool.
Yeah, for sure. And I think one of the reasons why I even like made it like completely free is because I feel like education, I want to make education and being an educator, one of the things I'm passionate about is I want my content to be accessible, for everyone. Like 90% of my content should be. So that's why I'm creating a lot of free products right now, like a free courses. Even like for my leadership one, I created a free course as well because I want people to understand what my teaching is like, invest in me, trust me. And if they do, then maybe eventually buy a premium product from me. Otherwise, I really don't want that audience. I want everyone to have access to education, right? And if they want to grow in their career, that's really important to me and a really important value I care for. And if it takes longer for me to grow because of it, that's fine. That's
But
totally
that's
cool.
awesome. That's a way to transition people from and understand your teaching techniques too, and know if they want your premium content. So I appreciate that too.
Yeah, for sure. And again, like there's so many educators out there, and like I think we talked about earlier in the podcast too, that everyone has an audience and a teaching style that you resonate with. You don't want to pay for something and then realize, oh, I don't like their teaching style. But if they try out a bunch of my free courses, they will fully understand what my teaching style is like, and if it really resonates with them. And as a result, the success rate for transformation is higher, right? Because they know what they are putting their money into, which really is a core value that I care for.
I think you told me that you may be in the process of creating an ebook, or you have created an ebook. Is that a new form of like content that you are moving into, or what is that for you?
So like I think we talked about like there could be different mediums for content, right? Like blog posts, video and whatnot, right? Like as creators we would love to write as well, but I think there are also different learners too, folks that
Mhm.
love video and folks that love books and ebooks, right? People who love buying a book and getting it in their home and sitting on the couch with a cup of tea and reading a book, right? Versus folks that just want to be on their phones and read ebooks. So that's another way of mode of content creation that I wanted to try and see that if people would love it or not. So I created an ebook, which is again to help people transition from being developers to engineering managers. But what is their first 90 days gonna look like? Because again, if you don't set up your first 90 days for success, in a leadership position more so, or the more senior you get, it is going to be a bit difficult for you to build that trust, right? Because the first 90 days is not been taken that seriously. So that book covers like a strategy for how do you set up goals, what exactly you need to do, and so on. And it also comes with the workbooks that you can use so that you can put learning to practice as well. So again, like ebook is really a good medium to again connect a different type of audience that is really interested in it. But again, on the on the topic of making my content accessible as well, I've also created like a trimmed down version of the course of or course or free course on the same topic too, like the first 90 days. So people that don't want to buy the ebook, that's fine. Take the course. You will still get an understanding and why it's important. But if you want more unlimited updates, more access to me, and more things, then I think ebook is a really good idea. But again, like making sure that not everyone has the same learning style, and
Yep.
who your audience is, and making sure that they can consume content in that sense, right, is really important.
Yes, and I think that is one of the most important things, is that realizing that everyone kind of learns a little differently or prefers a different medium, like you said, and you have to find that balance. And that may not be your passion either. Like, I don't really love writing, but like sometimes I write blog posts just to get things out there, and that's what people want to read. So,
Hmm.
yeah, completely agree.
I think the difficulty like with content that you're passionate about and kind of the subject, it for me at least, it becomes difficult to take yourself back to a person who doesn't know it anymore. And so it's really awesome that you're able to like bring some of those community members in to kind of dog food like what you're working on and check it out and try things. So I think we should probably leverage our learn, build, teach folks a little more, Brittany, and like say, hey, check out this course and let us know how good it is, how bad it
I
is.
For sure, yeah, and I love that you actually put that into your process too, that you try to think back what you went through in that moment too. You spoke a little bit about that, but getting feedback, I think, is one of the biggest ways that you can, I mean, it gets interest in your content that you're creating, and it allows you to figure out bugs and also like figure out if there's gaps in the learning.
So,
Yeah, exactly. And I think the feedback that they have shared is amazing, right? Because I was able to go back and improve a little bit on it too. Like, for example, I missed out explaining serialization. It's in my blog post, but I did not fully explain it in the course with more visual. And people asked me, what is serialization? I'm like, oh my God, I missed that. I need to add that as part of React Server components, because that's, you need to know that fundamental before you know how to pass props down in components, right? So again, like, it's really important to get that feedback. So I'm really appreciative for it as well. And even like from a leadership content, I have also taken a few managers and transitioned them from developers into managers when I was in my previous role as a senior engineering manager. And I think that also helped me a lot too, because I saw that they went through a lot of what I went through, which I had forgotten when I transitioned. So I started documenting everything that they were going through. So like the new course that I'm working on is also going to be, I'm hoping it's going to be great, because I've documented the learnings from their journey as well. So it's not just mine, which is pretty awesome. And they have been really doing a good job right now, leading teams and whatnot. So I'm very happy about that.
Awesome. That's so nice to see. And going back to what Alex was saying and leveraging that learn, build, teach community, I love this next question. And we struggle with like where to gather people when we have these communities. I feel like a lot of us are like scattered all over the place. Sometimes we have a Discord, we're on Twitter, we have multiple Discords. How do you aggregate your users into one place? What tools do you use, and how do you get that feedback?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I think something I've been thinking about a lot as for
I
my,
think all of us.
yeah, yeah, for my new course as well. I think there are two ways that I can think really work well in my experience. One is that you have a newsletter, right? People, whoever signs up for on your, whoever's interested in your social media or whatever resonates with them, they're going to sign up and give their email, and you're going to have a really personal connection with them through your, through their inbox, right? So if they don't like you, they're going to unsubscribe, which is great, because that means you are going to have more focused group of folks who are interested in learning from you, right? So I kind of see newsletter as a really good way of connecting with your audience and making sure that you are aggregating them, and like that's your call to action, right? Like, yes, sign up for my newsletter because I know you will love it because you like X and Y and Z things. Like, for example, the React Server components. Pretty sure they will like my Front End Snacks newsletter because they love that type of teaching, right? Where whatever teaching I have there. The
I love
second
the name
way
of
is
that.
like, sorry.
I love the name of that, front end
Yeah.
snack.
I was thinking like what's something that's fun that's like snackable. I'm like snacks. Uh, but the second way is like community, creating a community. And a community could be a Discord community on Circle or whatever. But I think what's important is when users do join their community, do you have a good onboarding experience? Do they know where to go to ask questions, how to connect? Do you have weekly chats or monthly chats or whatever works best for your community? And I think that community again becomes a really good place to connect with more with people the more remote we get, right? Like I think right now a lot of us work from home, so I think it's even more important to have that connectedness in a community. So again, a community is a really good spot, but I'm very careful starting one completely, just because I want to make sure that I do have the time and bandwidth to do that. So for my leadership course, I'm going to make sure that I have a good sequence of activities for them to do, just so that they are set up for success when they do join it. Otherwise,
Mhm.
there's so many communities out there that are, you're part of it, but it's not that active, and you really don't want that.
Yes, and that is a struggle for all of us, and we try to like consolidate them, and there's so many Discord servers and there's so many good ones, and it's hard to balance your time. And then if you're starting your own thing, you're like, oh, we're in this corner, but you have to worry about the moderation, the engagement, the other things. It is a lot of things, but it's just trying to find that balance and ways that we can get our audience together.
For sure. But I think that's the best way to, aggregate other, folks on different platforms, and like having a connection with you, right? And you can talk to them and ask questions. And based on the questions that they are asking too, like you can kind of understand, like, where there might be a need for something new, or some an area or a blog post even, right? That they're
Yep.
interested in, for example. Yeah.
Awesome. So I want to go back, and you were talking about how you have these free newsletters and things that kind of pull users in to hopefully like get them into your premium content and ask you like at some point you have to make money. So how do we monetize this content and generate income and make this a career?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think the way I right now that's working for me is creating more digital products, right? Again, like making your content as accessible as possible, so people know what you like and your teaching style and everything, right? So, but then creating courses online, creating ebooks more so, just to understand. I think an ebook is a really good spot to check if there's a demand, right? And then a course could be a continuity of that, wherein it takes you after the ebook, what's after the ebook, right? And I think you can go through and learn and get that transformation for yourself. But having the different modes of learning is really important. There are different, obviously, like different ways of even monetizing it, like affiliate income and things like that too. And I think it comes as you like build more courses and whatnot too. But so far, I think the digital products way is a really good way to create that. And I think if you do want to spend more time and effort into a community, then I think making the barrier of entry to a community should also be considered, because instead of making it a fully free community, you can also make it, even like $1, you will get more interest, right? Because you're moderating that, and you are getting folks who are truly invested in it, because they are like, am I really interested in this topic? It's just $1, but that will really
I
help
completely
as
agree.
well.
If you put a price on something and you actually go and you spend your money on it, you are more likely to finish and complete it and be invested in it. So yeah, I completely agree with that.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think like that's another way of monetizing whatever you're doing is, and a really good way for creators to make income. And hopefully the YouTube channel works out. Who knows?
Yeah, absolutely. And like getting monetization on YouTube is, I hear, harder than it used to be. And it's a difficult slog to get to those. I think the watch hours really is where they get you a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, at least for me, I'm only like I said, a month old, right, on YouTube, but I've been consuming YouTube content forever, and I think that YouTube is such a good way to find the people that might be interested in you, because it also has a search engine, right? So it's really really good. And I've only created, like, so far I think I have 3 or 4 videos out on my channel, but different communities that I'm part of, people have messaged me there being like, I love your video, I love what you did here, or just people are finding ways to connect. And that is, I found that so interesting. And even though YouTube wasn't going to be my focus, now it is, because I'm getting so many signals, right? For people, that
It's
means
that
people are
algorithm.
liking it.
That
Yeah.
algorithm is just ridiculous. And like we talk about it and we make fun of it, like with playing the algorithm with the thumbnails and how do you game it and get up on the top of it. But it really works when it works.
Yeah, exactly. I think like I said, I think if you're interested in creating more video content, YouTube is a great spot to start sooner rather than later, right? But I do think that, again, like when I look up on so many different topics on YouTube, there are not that many videos that pop up. That means there is an opportunity there, right, to like get out there more and more. But if you like it, right, otherwise you can focus on more on other meat ways of creating content.
Yeah, for sure. I have one kind of just personal, not personal, but question about your site that I really love. Let me bring it up here. I really love how you do these snippets, and I was wondering, like, is this completely manual? Are you getting help? How are these done?
So I'm using a tool called Snapify that allows you to embed and create visual snippets. And that's the whole thing with my course on React Server Components and my Front End Snacks newsletter as well. They're really great. I'm actually writing a blog post for them as well because I've been consuming it so much. It's really good. Like you can also, the one thing I love about it is that you can copy the snippet too, so it's accessible, which is
This
pretty
is really
awesome.
cool.
But again, that allows me to visually describe what exactly I want to create, and like even adding a few tweaks really makes it easier for folks to consume content. So I think this was a conference talk that I gave on GraphQL state management, and I just thought that was a really good spot in a conference to teach things visually, right? An
Yeah,
online conference.
yeah.
And
It really amazed me when I like started seeing all the like over like arrows and things like that. I was like, this is really cool way to show people exactly what you want
yeah,
without
exactly.
jumping into Figma or anything.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that was the other thing too. I really wanted it to be easier for folks to copy paste code and whatnot too. So yeah, they do a really good job of that.
It's really cool.
One more question I want to talk about is like, what are some of the things that we can do to try and reach a wider audience? I know you said you're still new on YouTube and we're still kind of figuring these things out, but what are we looking at here for how to grow?
For sure. I think that one advice that I have been getting from so many folks, and it's something that I think works for the past however long I'm creating content, is be as useful as possible to the folks that you're creating content for. And I know this advice, I almost hate giving it because people are like, when will I see results? And I get to that point too. But I think what's important is that you do something that you love and you keep creating content in a lot of different ways. And then things are going to click for you, and you're going to start getting those signals from different communities that you're part of, like I mentioned, or people that are really interested in it as well. So when you do create those, when you do want to monetize yourself and create those premium products as well, people are going to see more and more, you are going to see more and more signups, right? Because people are going to see more and more of you and how willing you are to help them and give them what they're looking for as well. The more I started blogging, I'm also seeing a really growth in my Next.js course as well, for example, because, and I'm not sure if there's a direct correlation or not, but I do think that the more you put yourself out there, the more you're going to be visible, right? And 6 months later, you have so many pieces of blog posts, conference talks, videos, and a lot of different things that you have created that I think it really helps to grow. I personally don't care a lot about social media numbers. It's more so how much value you're willing to give out, right? And the more value you give, I think that's what people care about.
Yeah, sorry, I was taking notes on that because I completely agree that being consistent with content is like the number one way that you can gain traction. And then social media followers are a completely separate like can of worms. Like that doesn't really like go with like who values your content and who actually like gives back to you as a creator. I do think that one other thing that we didn't mention here, or maybe a couple other things, are like ads are one way to go. Like you can go into monetization with ads, but that's I feel like a little pushy, and we get into that marketing side that us developers don't really love. And then collaborating with other tech content creators, I think, is a big way to like play off their followers maybe a little bit, and you get people interested in your content and know who you are through that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think I'm really excited to be doing more collaborations soon as well. Just
Awesome.
because I think that's a really good way to grow your audience. But speaking about like ads in general too, I think I looked into it a little bit, and it is so difficult to share ads with the right people
Yeah,
we're looking for. So a lot of times you might be spending maybe thousands of dollars on ads, but you might not get the traction necessary, at least when you're starting out, right? So I think for me, I would rather focus on SEO and like focus on the gains there and capture that intent. So even if I get maybe 100 people from SEO, they are really folks that are really interested in what I'm writing, right? Because they have
get
checked
the
out my
right
content.
users. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Versus like ads where I might get maybe 1,000 visits and maybe five might convert. Who knows, right? So I think it's important that try it out. I have not tried ads before, but whenever I looked into ads, it almost felt like they only work when you have a lot of money to pour into ads because you know that there's a failure, right? It's okay to fail there. Yeah.
absolutely. Awesome. I love that. And I just have one more question before we go. Maybe we can answer it quickly, but I think it's really important to like track and measure your success. So what are some of the things that you're using to do that?
For sure. Yeah. I think there are numbers like Google Analytics and whatnot too, just to see. Um, I think I have like specific reports that I have set up just to see like the number of users on my site, how many newsletter subscribers I have, how many people are loving my content and converting too. So based on that, I see those signals too. Like for example, the React Server Components blog post, like I started getting so many signups to my newsletter because of that, because it was really resonating with folks, right? And I think that's really key as well. But I think that's really a good way to check if people are really interested in that content. But analytics is really useful and making sure that you have the proper conversion funnel. And because I was leading growth engineering in my previous company, I'm so passionate about numbers and checking and growing and have a funnel tracked, which is like something that again I can pull from my leadership experience there and really tracking and making sure everything works. But yeah, but track everything. I think that's really important because you never know what's gonna work and where people are hanging out, for example.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think you're either a numbers person or you're not. And I don't know if I'm so into the numbers, but I think it's important, especially when
Mhm.
you're a content creator and finding those key people.
For sure. And I think like I don't want to say like, oh, numbers are if I make X growth by X month, then I'm successful,
Yeah.
right? It's not that. It's like, is this working? Yes or no? Looking at the numbers maybe once every week, right? And I was like, yeah, this is actually working. Like I generated this specific guide and people are loving it. That means I should do more of this, right?
Yeah. And that's justification to like keep creating that kind of content. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I created the YouTube video. Like at least like six or seven folks reached out to me saying they loved it and they described what they love it. And I was like, that is great. That means that there's interest in that type of content. I should be creating more of that. So again, like these are good signals to keep going and like knowing where to pivot, when to pivot and when not to pivot, right? So those help, but it shouldn't be like the barrier for you. Okay, numbers are not moving. I should not create content at all. It means you should be creating more content that resonates.
I think there's a big piece there too that you have to decide yourself like what you're aiming for too. If you're trying to do this as a business and go full time, that's one thing. Like you need those numbers to be converting. If this is just fun for you and you like enjoy that side of it, that's a whole nother thing. So it's tough to set those pieces apart sometimes.
For sure. I think it's the biggest switch I had to do when I decided to go full time was not thinking of my creator educator business as just me working and pushing out content and maybe hopefully fingers crossed people might come, right? it's more so having that business mindset, right? Like if I have to turn this into a business, what should be my revenue model? What should be my metrics like? And how am I going to convert people? And will this work long term, right? With everything recently on social media, it's a clear sign that it's not reliable. That means it's not good for the business, right?
Yeah.
What
True.
are other ways? YouTube is a great way. So I started like doubling down on YouTube now. So again, like tracking that and having that, changing that perspective to a business is a game changer. The minute I shifted that, it was huge for me, because I did stop working on a few projects that I was working on, because I was like, this is not good for the business.
No, that's great. It's good that you can like conceptualize that and put that to work.
For sure.
I feel like we could just keep asking questions and going down these like rabbit holes of things. Maybe we'll have to have you back on in 6 months, see when you've released your course and see how that's doing.
Yeah, for sure. I would love to be back. And thank you so much for asking me these questions. I think it's really great to talk about the creator educator stuff that you do in the background and like share it to everyone to see what's working and what's not.
Yeah.
All right, it's time for our perfect picks. Ankita, yours, like, I feel like I should make you go last because ours is going to be so boring after it. But I always like to do the guests first. So please tell us more about Ultimate Dodgeball.
Yeah, for sure. So I have been playing and I am very proud of it. And I love to brag about this thing that I do, which is like, I love playing trampoline dodgeball. I've been playing since January 2015. And it's honestly, it's like a fun sport. There are two teams, right? Like my team and the opposite team. And we just play dodgeball, except you're on trampolines. And the good thing is that there are trampolines everywhere, right? So even if you fall, you're going to fall on the trampoline. So you're not going to hopefully get hurt because of it. I know people have gotten hurt, but it's not that bad at
This
all.
sounds so intense. I would be like bragging about it too if I could do this. Look at that.
Bro, I don't think I do that many stunts though.
I would
But
constantly hit the middle things and like, oh, that didn't
I
feel
used to love dodgeball as a kid. I mean, I would probably really enjoy this if I didn't die.
yeah, for sure. And the thing is that it's a really good sport for you to be active weekly.
Mhm.
Plus I do it with friends who I really love, so it's like a good time to like hang out with them consistently too. And we have so many other teams that we have just become friends with, which is like really awesome, like social activity in general. But yeah, highly recommend the sport. Give it a shot. This Sky Zone is a company that like runs it, and you can hear my Google reminder in the background to have a
fun.
smoothie. But anyway, so this sport is like really fun, and I think Skyzone is a company, or Off Limit Sports is a company that usually runs it, and it's called Skyzone as the trampoline park. So I'm sure there must be one in every city. So you definitely check it out. It's really fun.
Yeah,
Yeah. Awesome.
very cool. I might have nudged Brittany into this next pick, but
It was a great nudge though, because I was struggling to think of a pick, but I did look at this weekend and I was really impressed that, I mean, I've always been impressed by Apparat's design. It's a beautiful website. It's built in Svelte kit, by the way, which I love and I'm very passionate about, but it's a beautiful site and they have open sourced their design system. And I was just looking for some inspiration. I'm redoing the docs for the design system I'm working on, and like, it's just gorgeous. And I
Yeah.
love it. And so it's called Pink and Pink Design.
yeah, it's been
Love
really
it.
exciting for the company. So a lot of our demos that I'm in charge of now will be using the Pink design system within them. I'm still a little torn because I like Tailwind so much. So I've been using Pink and Tailwind to kind of combine the two.
Oh, come on. You got to use the design system. I'm going to get you on that one. No.
It's like so hard for my brain to remember like flex of like U flex or P flex or whatever they use. I'm like,
Whatever
oh,
their
P
naming
flex.
convention is. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just little things like that. But once I use it more, I'm sure I can get all the little classes down and things like that. So
You just have to rely on the documentation more.
exactly. So one suggestion, this is like very beta, just released. There's still like some small things. We haven't hit a lot of major things yet, but if you're going to use it in production, just know that. My pick, which was kind of big news, Gatsby is joining Netlify, or as some people have put, Netlify bought Gatsby. So I think there's a big suggestion here that Netlify probably gave up some stock options to Gatsby to kind of divvy out. So they've kind of taken them under. I'm really excited about this in many ways, because the interesting part to me is that Netlify will have like this whole graph piece, and they've had their graph. What's it called, Britt? Their graph
It
explorer.
was called Netlify Graph. They bought one graph, but that is done. That's deprecated now. This I think is going to be maybe taking care of that, but I think they did the acquisition based on the Valhalla thing that Gatsby had, and to get some of those users over to Netlify, which was part of like the whole acquisition. But I think that Gatsby itself being a part of Netlify isn't like they didn't buy Netlify. Like we think a lot of like Next.js being owned by Vercel and being run by Vercel, but these open source communities stay open source within Vercel and Netlify. And I think you can attest to that with 11D and Solid being at Netlify. And I never thought of Netlify as owning Solid or owning 11D. Vercel and Next.js are a little less so on that side, but Svelte, Rich Harris and Simon work for Vercel, and I don't think of Svelte as being owned by Vercel. So I think these open source frameworks being a part of these companies is okay.
Yeah, I think in order to survive long term, like it's challenging, and I know Gatsby's, they've been struggling obviously to keep going, but they're getting more like enterprise type of users and things like that, so they have a revenue stream coming in. But I think it becomes more challenging as an open source provider. At some point, you kind of have to figure out what's next. Another company that I think did a great job is Ionic. They did. For years, they were kind of off on their own, and they made a run at it, and they were doing well. And I think they recently were acquired too, or merged or partnership or whatever you want to call it. So I think we're going to see this quite a bit in the next coming years, of a lot of open source products that want to continue being a thing.
Yeah, I mean, Remix got bought up by Shopify. Like we're seeing it all over the place, and they have to make some source of revenue. And if you can't do it on your own, you have to like find a way. And I have to think that these companies do have the ecosystem's best interest at heart, because I'm an optimist.
To some degree, whether it gets merged into some other product, maybe, but I think Gatsby will probably live on its own.
I did hear another thing yesterday that I'm going to mention here, because Andrew, what is his last name? Clark, I think.
Clark. Yeah.
From the React team said he's joining Vercel too. And it's getting closer to that. Like, is React Vercel, and what is the...
Ooh, I don't know. Facebook might not like that.
Well, I mean, he's going to be still doing, it sounds like he's going to still be doing a lot of the same things he did at Meta, but in his spare time, he won't be working on, or in his other time, he won't be working on Facebook. He'll be working on Next.js. So it will...
Cool. That's really interesting. So I really enjoy I never loved the React ecosystem without a framework. And now that we have Next.js, we had Gatsby before that. That was kind of my initial, I feel like it's in such a better place now. So it's fantastic. Anyways, Ankita, thanks so much for coming on. We really appreciate it. And we'll see you soon. It sounds like probably, when you hit 100K, don't forget the little people.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah,
absolutely. We'll see you next time.